Right now, your nose is picking up signals that your conscious mind never even notices. Thousands of years ago, that same sense could mean the difference between walking home and never walking home again. Some researchers now believe that early humans could actually detect fear through smell, long before anyone understood why. This is not a myth from an old campfire story. It comes from real chemistry happening inside the human body. When a person feels afraid, their sweat changes composition, releasing compounds that a nearby nose can sometimes register. For most of human history, that kind of subtle signal was not a curiosity, it was survival information. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly how this ancient sense worked, and why modern life has almost erased it. You will also learn what tribal hunters, ancient warriors, and even modern soldiers have in common when it comes to sensing danger. Most people today assume smell is our weakest sense, mostly useful for enjoying food or noticing bad odors. That assumption is a modern one, shaped by a world where we rarely need our nose to stay alive. For nearly all of human evolution, smell was a survival tool, wired directly into the emotional centers of the brain. Later in this video, I will explain how this connection between smell and emotion actually works inside your skull. I will also explain why some anthropologists believe entire hunting strategies were built around reading fear through scent. And I will show you a strange modern experiment that suggests this ability has not fully disappeared from us. Let us start with the biggest myth, the idea that smell only detects things like food, flowers, or smoke. In reality, the human nose is connected to a brain region called the amygdala, which processes fear and emotional threat. This means smell has a more direct line to your emotional brain than sight or hearing ever will. Modern scientists have studied this using sweat samples collected from people before events like skydiving or public speaking. In several studies, other people who smelled this fear sweat showed measurable changes in their own brain activity and alertness. Researchers at institutions including Rice University and the Manel Chemical Senses Center have documented this chemical fear signal in humans. Ancient hunter-gatherer groups likely relied on this same signal constantly, whether tracking prey or watching for rival groups nearby. Imagine a small hunting party moving quietly through tall grass, thousands of years before recorded history began. Their eyes are scanning the horizon, but their noses are doing something just as important, reading the air itself. A frightened animal releases stress chemicals into its sweat and breath, and a skilled tracker can sometimes detect this shift. This is not guesswork. Modern trackers in southern Africa still describe reading an animal's fear state through subtle scent changes. Sand hunters, sometimes called bushmen, have long used a tracking method that blends visual signs with a deep awareness of smell. For these hunters, scent was never separate from the hunt itself. It was one continuous stream of information. But here is what most people do not realize. This same skill likely worked between humans as well as animals. If a rival group was frightened or in distress, their scent could quietly warn others of danger nearby. Anthropologists studying oral traditions have found stories across many cultures describing elders who could smell trouble before it arrived. In many of these traditions, this was not treated as magic, but as an earned skill passed down through experience. Shamans and tribal healers in various cultures were often described as being able to sense fear or illness through scent. Modern medicine now confirms that certain illnesses do change body odor, which may explain part of these old traditions. Diabetes, for example, can produce a distinct sweet smell on the breath, something doctors are trained to notice even today. This suggests that ancient scent wisdom may have been an early, informal form of diagnostic observation passed through generations. There is something even stranger almost nobody talks about, and it involves how fear spreads through a group. Researchers have proposed that chemical fear signals may have helped early human groups react to danger faster as a unit. If one person's fear scent reached others nearby, it could trigger heightened alertness before anyone spoke a single word. This would have been incredibly useful for a species without claws, fangs, or great physical speed compared to predators. Cooperation and shared awareness were among the greatest survival tools early humans had, and scent may have quietly supported both. Picture a group resting near a fire at night, when one member suddenly tenses without saying anything at all. Within moments, others in the group grow uneasy too, long before anyone consciously identifies what triggered the shift. Some researchers argue this kind of nonverbal alarm system predates spoken language itself by tens of thousands of years. If true, this means our ancestors were communicating survival information through smell before they ever communicated it through words. This brings us to a second major myth, the idea that this ability has completely vanished from modern humans. In truth, our physical capacity to detect these chemical signals has not disappeared. Our environment has simply drowned it out. Modern life surrounds us with perfumes, soaps, air conditioning, and processed food, all of which mask natural body scent. In a 2012 study, researchers found that people exposed to sweat from first-time skydivers displayed heightened startle responses afterward. This happened even though the participants could not consciously identify what they were smelling at all. Their bodies reacted to the chemical signal beneath conscious awareness, much like ancient humans likely did around real danger. This is a powerful example of what scientists call chemosignaling, communication through chemical scent rather than words or gestures. Chemosignaling still exists in humans today, but our modern habits have pushed it far into the background of daily life. Soldiers in modern combat units have also described a heightened sense of smell developing after extended time in high-stress environments. Some veterans report being able to sense tension in a room before anyone speaks, echoing ancient survival instincts. This suggests the ability was never truly lost, only suppressed by comfort, convenience, and constant artificial scent exposure. Let us look at a third myth now, the idea that ancient rites of passage had nothing to do with the senses. Many traditional coming-of-age ceremonies actually involved intense physical stress, designed partly to sharpen sensory awareness in young hunters. In various tribal cultures, young men were sent into the wilderness alone, forced to rely on instinct and observation to survive. During these trials, heightened stress may have temporarily sharpened their sensitivity to scent, sound, and subtle environmental changes. Anthropologists studying these rites suggest they were not just about courage, but about training the entire sensory system for adulthood. In a sense, these ceremonies were unintentionally teaching young people to read danger the way their ancestors always had. This is very different from how most people today are raised, largely disconnected from raw sensory survival skills. There is a reflection worth sitting with here about how much of our ancient perception we may have quietly switched off. Our ancestors were not superhuman, they simply lived in constant contact with the signals modern life has taught us to ignore. Now let us return to that opening question and look at it with fresh eyes. Could ancient humans truly smell fear the way we imagine in dramatic stories or films? The honest scientific answer is more nuanced. They could likely detect chemical stress signals, even if they never understood the biology behind it. They lived close enough to danger and close enough to each other that these subtle signals became genuinely useful information. Over thousands of generations, this sensitivity may have been reinforced, sharpened, and passed down as part of survival itself. Modern science is only now beginning to explain, in chemical terms, something ancient people simply lived by instinct. This is a recurring pattern throughout human history, ancient practices later validated by careful modern research. From tracking animals through scent to reading group tension without words, our ancestors were far more perceptive than we often assume. Let us bring everything together and look back at what we have uncovered in this video. We started with the idea that fear itself can carry a chemical scent, detectable by those around us. We learned that hunter-gatherer trackers likely used this ability constantly, both with animals and with other humans. We explored how shamans and tribal elders across cultures were often described as sensing danger or illness through smell. We uncovered evidence that this ability may have helped early humans react to danger together, even before language existed. We also saw that modern science, through real studies on fear sweat, is now confirming what ancient humans seemed to already know. The biggest takeaway is not that ancient humans had magical powers, but that they paid closer attention to their own bodies. They lived in a world that demanded constant awareness, and their senses adapted to meet that demand. Modern comfort has given us incredible advantages, but it has also quieted some of the instincts we once depended on. Perhaps the real ancient wisdom here is not the smell itself, but the discipline of staying present and aware. Our ancestors survived by noticing small signals that most of us have simply stopped paying attention to. The next time you feel a strange sense of unease in a room, it may be older and wiser than you think. If this journey into ancient human perception fascinated you, consider subscribing so you never miss the next exploration into forgotten human wisdom. There are many more stories like this one, waiting in the overlooked corners of anthropology and ancient history. If you found this video valuable, please give it a like, since it genuinely helps this channel keep telling these stories. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you just did, consider sharing it with them today.